Alright, so I was recording, got interrupted. I have a new microphone. I hope this makes me sound nicer, and hopefully audio quality's better. Previously it was pretty terrible, so hopefully this makes it somewhat better. The map, the wonderful map. I divided up the Himalayas among all these countries. India got some, Caspia got some, Greater Caucasia got some, Mongol Siberia got some. Obviously you can see the Chinese countries got some. These guys got a little bit. These guys like doubled in size. And then a new Tibetan country was established onto the map, as well as a little bit of a northern expansions by all these countries. Most notably, Blue China got a ton of land over here in Manchuria and Kamchatka, as well as Sakhalin and the other North Japanese Isle. Estonia expanded. We'll get to this. Actually, you can't see it. We'll get to this in a minute, but down here in Africa, there was some expansion as well. These guys like nearly doubled in size. Tanzania country grew a lot, securing all the coast. Punt jumped over from Madagascar and secured this area over here, and then South Africa's been established, or we'll just call them Cape Town, I guess. They don't have a capital yet. I'll put one down later. And then Tibet also needs a capital. I'll get to that, but I was in the middle of this. So Ireland has a rebellion. Their north half separates away from them, and their capital's put here. But what I was in the middle of was the Scottish rebellion, which Scotland secures a giant amount of the land here before eventually securing independence from these guys. But that pretty much just puts the seeds of collapse into effect for the British Isles. We see a country over here in Cornwall form, breaking away from them. All of this basically decides they don't want to be a part of the government here in Wales anymore. And then the government in Wales gets overthrown pretty hard. Hold up, I'm trying to find a new color. Here we go. The government in Wales gets overthrown, and a new Welsh country is established. But before they can get over here, this part of the country claims its independence as a new country. So we've seen the complete collapse of the British Isles. They need some capitals. I'm gonna put them down right now. We'll give them a capital over. Actually, is my camera in the way then? These guys' capital will be like right here. I don't think that's where London is. I think it's just outside. In Cornwall, their capital will be right here, and in Scotland, their capital will be right. It'll be right here. I think Edinburgh is right here. Maybe, I'm not sure. Can't be too sure. But it'll actually be Scotland after a few years, I'd imagine. The time period in this series is kind of wonky, so I'll just say it's like the year 100. But they discover Iceland. They land along the southern coast of the island, and they discover all that. All of that. Very nice. They don't discover the whole thing, but they have landed. They have made the discovery. We'll see how else that transpires later. Also, this island here is theirs. To color that in. Make sure. That too. And that too, if I can color it in. There we go. Lots of islands. Anyways, following the Olympia and Anatolia War, this is basically going to kick off what in this series is the Dark Ages. The Middle Ages. The fall of the Roman Empire did that in real life, but here both Olympia and Anatolia economies are just shattered and everything falls into turmoil. The strongest country now is Rome, who spans across a giant chunk of land. So now the power rankings will probably be like Rome is 1, India's 2, old Imperians are 3. That's how I see it. And then 4 would be like Estonia, and then 5 would be punt, we'll say. But the world's total like ability is in free fall, and East Europe, particularly countries fueled by these two powerhouses, are going to go into free fall. The first country to just completely get destroyed is this country here, the Lime Ukrainian country. Basically, all of their like land falls apart, and they have some structure, obviously, but really the only parts of them that they're able to like hold on to are like this coastal area, and not even that. They're able to hold on to like this very southern part of the country. But we'll see all of their neighbors jump them, and the first one to do it will be the former Thessaloniki country, who has a grudge against them. Obviously, they fought in a war before, but now they're gonna march on in to reclaim, or claim rather, some of the land they wanted. So they'll kind of move across the Olympian border. Olympia's in no shape to go to take some more land at this point anyway, but they'll move on in, move up here, and basically secure all this land over here. However, they do eventually have to stop, as they are the most stable structure country in the world. They're hit hard too by this conflict, more so by Anatolia's economic weakening rather than Olympia's. But you know, they're not doing so hot. But the next country, and the most notable country to jump on in this, is Olympia, who will up the brush size, because this isn't like super populated areas, but these guys will just move on in across their entire border and just roll on in, claiming all this land as fast as possible, just securing like a big swath of the country. But as this happens, it kind of becomes a race, as both Greater Caucasia and Hungary want to claim land. Now, Greater Caucasia is a weird one because they are really unstable. They control a giant amount of land that they aren't so great at holding on to, and it's more so a matter of if, not a matter of if, but when they're going to fall apart, because it's going to happen. But for now, they don't really care. They're still going to take on more land. They already have more land than they can chew, and they're going to make the problem worse as they stroll on into the east part of the Lime country, Ukraine country. Now, Hungary is more stable. They're not insanely stable. In fact, if you put them on like if you had to give them like a stability ranking from 0 to 100, they would be less than 50, but they're not like falling apart yet. So they're gonna move on in and secure some of this land. Now, this country and all their neighbors aren't like this. Some of the countries are just like aggressively taking land, but the government doesn't really care. Again, most of they're holding on to like everything in this bubble, and everything else is just kind of anarchy. And the biggest territorial gainings will be by Estonia, because they're easily the most stable country on their border. We'll have the red team down here gobble up a little more land, but for the most part, things have settled down, and they're gonna hold on to the land they have. Hungary's gonna get a little more land out of this along their border, like over here. And then from here, Ukraine will attempt to secure the rest of their land. Actually, we'll have Estonia get a little more. So yeah, the Ukrainian Lime team has just completely tumbled and spiraled out of control. Here, we'll even make them smaller. They can't catch a break. There we go. This is what they look like now. horrendous. But anyways, back to the two losers, the two countries actively tumbling apart. Olympia is going to be experiencing a major insurgency. This insurgency will start in their core territory as well. Over here on this island, over here we're going to see a new group pop up, and they'll pretty quickly, and violently too, secure the entire island. And pretty soon their movement spreads across to neighboring islands such as these two, and eventually it makes its way to Crete and some of the southern Aegean islands. It doesn't quite reach Athens yet, but it's only a matter of time. And these guys are, of course, the Spartans. Good old Sparta. We'll see where that leads. As for Anatolia, Rhodes is going to try to break away. And I say try because Rhodes is not going to successfully break away. They're not fully able to. Where'd my color wheel go? What happened to the color wheel? There we go. I got it back. I don't know if you guys can see the color wheel or not, but I don't think you can. Anyways, Rhodes is going to try to break away from Anatolia. However, not all of Rhodes will decide to break away. Some of them will choose to remain with Anatolia. But the main island, as well as some of this southern part down here, will announce their departure from the union with Anatolia. However, outside of this, everything else opts to stay with these guys. I actually don't like this border I just drew, so I'm going to try to make it more fun, more aesthetically pleasing to look at. Something like that's good enough. So yeah, we've seen two major groups pop out of both Anatolia and Olympia, and it's gonna get a lot worse before it gets better. Now over here in West Europe, we are gonna see a little bit of happy news. We're gonna see a union between two countries, and that will be the North Iberians and the West Catalonians. I don't know what to call them, but these two are just going to be uniting into Greater North Iberia, I guess. These guys will join into these guys' country, and their capital will be, I guess they can stay there. But these guys are joining in to one country, and they're doing pretty good. There's even interest with these guys to potentially join them, but that remains to be seen. Down here in Africa, we are going to see some countries that are more reliant on Olympia in the east part getting more unstable, which includes these guys, this Egyptian country, which is super unstable to begin with, but they're just going to get so much worse. These guys, I don't even know what condition they're in, but like on a stability ranking, they're 0. This is all anarchy, I imagine. Anarchy from the post-Egypt era along the Nile. And eventually other countries are just going to have to get involved and secure the land. But the problem is the green team can't do it because they're also really bad stability-wise. They're like less than a 10. So big neighbors like primarily Punt and their Ethiopian friends over here are going to try to minimize they're going to kindly invade. Are they kindly invading? Probably not, but they are entering the country to try and stop the fighting on their border because it's spilling into their countries. So they're going to roll on in and begin taking giant chunks of land. This lime green Nigerian country over here will also do a little bit of that along the square team and pink team's border. They'll take all this and then just kind of country will secure all of this. And then they'll stop because they also don't want to fall apart and they're not insanely stable. But they'll secure all of that. Punt, meanwhile, is one of the more stable comparatively countries. I mean, they're like a top 5 country at this point. They'll just move in pretty quickly and take a large chunk of land over here. They won't go much farther than that, though, and that's because they also have to take on some of this land over here in this, like, sandy country. Oh, hey, there's a pixel from the Egypt country. Okay, so they'll take on all of that, and as for the rest of this, I don't know what exactly could be done at this point. I think as time goes on, the countries around them are just tired of the conflict continually spilling into their borders, so Rome will make an attempt to secure a large chunk of the northern areas, and then the old empire will move into... They'll take the capital as well as some of these southern areas along the Punt border. And then the rest of this, they'll kind of work together. These 3, 4 countries, maybe even the square team, will try to have a little meeting to fix these guys. And so they'll end up just kind of merging both of these states into one. The color of which will be... what's like a faded green color. Actually, give it like a sort of coffee color. And these two will be merged into this, and their capital will be where the green team's capital is, because it's the largest, stablest city they have. So these guys will kind of work together to make sure they don't have to deal with raging wars on their border. They aren't trying to have all that fighting mess. As for this city over here, the old empire, it's not a capital. As for Cairo, I can also get rid of it. It's split perfectly down the middle between Rome and Arabia. Old empire. But here in Arabia, we also have another event happening. It's been an event I've been meaning to have happen for a while, and that's the Arabian independence movement in Punt's lands. Now, Punt has been worried that the second they get rid of their Arabian country, that the old empire will just instantly jump it. That they'll just instantly be like, ooh, free land, mine. And they'll just jump on it and yoink it. However, after repeatedly promising not to invade it, things have passed and they get their independence. And a protection guarantee from the old empire. I'm recording right now. Okay. So, if you want to be here, be quiet, please. Alright. Now that we got that cleared up, zooming out on this map, I'm gonna have them expand into Indonesia, particularly over here in Sumatra. A country's gonna be landing, and it will not be Thailand, although they'll secure all the Malay Peninsula land down here to Singapore. And that's great and all, but it's actually India who will land in Sumatra. They have all these islands. Actually, no, I think these guys have all these islands, but they will not have Sumatra, as the Indian country will be able to secure all of it. Probably not in one sitting, they probably took a while, but they do secure all of this area, as well as a small landing in this island. What is this island called? I have no idea. I wish I did know. Japan. We're making it a country. Let's get like a cyanish color, like a... I can't get a cyan color. Oh, this is so annoying. sad. You know what, we'll just do like a dark fuchsia, but Japan will be forming into a country. At least North Japan will. The southern part of Japan will actually form into a different country, assuming I could find a color. Yeah, they're like this gold color. Alright, perfect. We'll even get some of these islands down here in East Asia. Over here and over here. Fantastic. And we'll even... Ooh, I don't know what to do about the Philippines. You know what, the Philippines get discovered at least by the South China team, who will secure most of the north area as well as this peninsula down here. Hell, they'll even land in North Borneo. So, progress is made in East Asia. I think we need a conflict. And then a union. So, let's start that. France. There's actually two Frances. Well, these ones have their capital in Belgium, but whatever. This Mediterranean France will be declaring war on Milan. Is there a lot of meaning to the war? No, there is not, but they're moving on in. And things go pretty well at first. It's all happy-go-lucky until the newly united North Iberians jump in on the conflict and begin moving into Catalonia, which will instantly draw the majority of Mediterranean France's forces, which will allow Milan to make a pretty strong pushback. And soon it'll be very clear that southern France, Mediterranean France, is about to get jumped. Rome will move on in and secure this chunk of land over by their coast and pretty close to their capital, which is just the telltale sign that they're about to get mugged. Milan pushes back hard and takes over a large chunk of fresher real estate, while their front in Catalonia basically capitulates over to the North Iberians, who blitz on through it. And so they're looking pretty bad. And it gets worse as the North French, the Belgians, I guess, the pink Belgians, will move on in through a large chunk of their territory, moving down the river. I don't know what that river's called, but they'll move on in, take all this land, and they'll just move on in west and hold a front line here. They don't actually want to occupy them, but they want just their land over here. And eventually they'll get all this land. I don't like the border over here. I'm going to change it. Through some magical means, the border looks like that. And these guys are forced to surrender. In the treaty, they'll get some of their land back. It'll look something like this. So, France is barely French at this point. They got all their land yoinked by this North French team over here, this Purple France team. But now they've got a taste of blood, and they want to keep striking while the iron's hot. So they're going to roll up here into Cornwall, which isn't very strong at all, and they're going to completely take over the whole thing and secure control, which scares the crap out of all these North British countries. It'd also make these guys very wary, because they're probably like the strongest country that borders them, and they're prepping for a potential conflict. But I did mention a union. Over here, the Hungarian and Austrian team. Actually, do I want to unite them? I kind of don't. But I kind of do at the same time. You know what? They're uniting. Austria, Hungary. I'm going to keep both capitals on the map, though. It'll be like real Austria-Hungary, where Vienna and Budapest both govern different parts of them. I don't know if these are even close to real Vienna and Budapest. I know this one's like kind of close to Vienna. A little bit. I don't know where Budapest is. I could check on a map, but I'm too lazy. Yeah. And then, to close out this video, big Caucasia. They're cooked. They took on too much land, like I mentioned earlier, and now 3 major rebellions are going to crop up. The first one's going to crop up around the Central Asian lakes, particularly this one. However, the movement will quickly expand as a very similar movement crops up around this lake. And then eventually, both movements connect up and basically secure most of the southern Great Asian area of the Greater Caucasia country, which will make them big mad, and they go to send forces to threaten them back into submission, except for another rebellion will convince them otherwise. It starts over here in their claims in North why am I forgetting? This is a disaster. Someone in the background did something distracting, but Russia. It's North Russia. I need to learn English because I can't think. But this Russian area will be secured by this rebellion, and very quickly it just becomes evident that Caucasia is not capable of holding on to as much land as it was. Granted, all their population center is here, so losing this land isn't a huge deal relatively. They'll push back like a little bit in some of the areas, but as a whole, they'll even cut off these guys from having Caspian Sea access because they're petty like that. But as a whole, Caucasia will agree to terms of surrender. You know what? They'll even cut off Caspian Sea access for these guys. The pettiest of the petty. Or I guess the most strategic, because that way they can... These guys can't trade. Actually, the Caspian Sea isn't like a big trade, because like they can still get trade from this green team. This blue team can't, though. But they can also just get it through their friend. I imagine these two are probably friendly, having both revolted from these guys. But that is going to do it for the end of this episode. You know, like if you like, that would be quite swell. I'll see ya in the next one. Goodbye, viewers of